Next on the agenda is the manager's report, and as your general manager, it brings me immense pride to stand before you and share some news from the Cooperative over the past year, and to paint the landscape of where we're heading in our amplified future. The opportunity for you to be here tonight amongst the leaders of this cooperative and the employees of this cooperative, asking questions and learning more, that's what it's all about. It defines who we are as a community organization. I'd like to start my remarks tonight with a safety milestone and share that. Priority number one for me at Menard Electric is maintaining a strong culture of safe attitudes. And I'm proud to report that today marks the 4 years and 22 days since we've had an accident-related lost time incident. And I get a little worked up because it's a big deal. It really is. Thank you. That represents 252,000 working hours by our employees. And these aren't just numbers, and they're not just a statistic. It's a milestone that represents all the choices that the employees make every day. They take safety in mind over shortcuts, and the well-being of the crew in mind over individual convenience. And its significance really can't be overstated, especially in the industry that we work in. We've got high voltage facilities, we've got questionable terrain, we've got unknown weather conditions, we've got aged equipment, and let's face it, there's just concealed hazards out there all over the place. So each day without a lost time incident means another day that a family welcomes home our employees and they're unharmed. It also means another day that co-op projects can get completed without any distractions. And it means another day that our employees can serve you, our members, and that's really what it's all about. So I would help me to give our employees a round of applause and appreciation for their safe work environment. I enjoy spotlighting the employees whenever I can, as you can tell. And this spring, we gave you the opportunity to do the same. We opened up our lines of communication, as Warren mentioned, with a member satisfaction survey. Now, with the help of our cooperative branding partner, Touchstone Energy, we released this survey to almost 5,000 members via email invitation. And it aimed to gather some insights into the trust that you put in the organization, your satisfaction with our services, and opinions on our performance. It also provided an opportunity for members to comment in the form of, comments and suggestions, and we received plenty of those. In total, we did receive 380 responses, and that's a fair sample set at over 7%. We know that everybody's got busy lives and they want to do something else than respond to a survey. So I appreciate it if any of you in the room did. The survey did produce an American Customer Satisfaction Index score called the ACSI. These scores are gathered by industries all over the country. Menard Electric received an 83 on our score. And this score is a compilation of several factors, essentially rating how well we lived up to the expectations and measured up to your ideal experience for a cooperative. This score falls within the top 25th percentile of scores when compared to cooperatives publicly measured. In addition, it outperformed other cooperative, municipal, and investor-owned utilities nationwide, including Ameren Corporation. To touch on just a few responses, I'm happy to share that our strongest performance metric was realized from questions about our reliable service. 93% of respondents rated the reliability of your electric service as excellent. No change, by the way, from the survey that we conducted in the fall of 2022. Receiving quick power restoration after outages was remarked by 92% of respondents, and this score is also in line with our survey conducted in 2022. These responses are supported by some actual outage statistics that we gather every year. Repeat attendees to this meeting will recognize this graph. It's our SAIDI history. SAIDI represents a statistic that's commonly used in our industry to compare system reliability in the form of average outage duration. In 2024, the system average interruption duration index declined again, I'm happy to report. Now, this index looks at the duration of every outage that occurred during the year, and then it makes the assumption that every member experienced only one outage, and regardless of the cause of that outage, it suggests that each member would have been without power during that one outage for only 55 minutes. Now, we would love that number to be zero, believe me, but I think the significance here is how it's continued to steadily drop year over year over year. And I do believe that these stats stack up quite nicely as we amplify our dedication to the system that we maintain and to the essential services that we provide to you. Some more survey results. In the realm of cooperative culture, we also did quite well. 84% of members surveyed have experienced or witnessed community involvement by the cooperative, and we try to make that as public as we can. Finally, I'm happy to report an increase in member sentiment when asked if the cooperative demonstrated a support for renewable energy. This score increased from 72% in 2022 to 78% this year, which I think is a testament to the programs that we provide to those members who do install renewable systems. In fact, at last count, 267 Menard Electric members have installed a solar or a wind-powered renewable system at their home or business, including us at just a few of those little substation buildings that you see around the territory. So I find the survey's positive indication to the topic of renewable interesting and timely, as we did revise our renewable energy policies at the first of this year to accommodate the eventual phasing out of net metering over time, and that's going to be using a true cost of service approach. I'd like to take a few minutes to outline those revisions and the reasoning. Since January of 2018, members who installed renewable energy systems, such as solar, have received a 1-for-1 kilowatt-hour energy credit for the excess energy that they produced from their system across the month after offsetting the load at their own home or business. These credits were then available for them to use in future months throughout that year to offset any energy use. And while this approach has helped to encourage renewable adoption, it didn't really accurately reflect the fixed costs associated with maintaining the grid on a day-to-day basis. And I want to speak to that in a little more depth. And I'll mention one other thing. By allowing our members, renewable members, to do this, it essentially turned our system into a battery, and that battery effectively allowed for the storage and the discharge of their energy, which we know wasn't really happening. So these fixed costs that I mentioned, they exist at both the wholesale and the distribution level. While considering the supply chain of the electricity industry, which I show here on the screen, the wholesale supplier has fixed costs in the field of generation capacity, the transmission service that they provide to us, and the distribution substations where our service is delivered from. And then for Menard Electric, those fixed costs include the depreciation on our physical plant and those improvements, as well as the long-term debt service that paid for those assets. And finally, both our supplier and ourselves have people, personnel, and systems who support the 24/7 availability of the service. And we call those the admin and general costs. So when I look at that supply chain and I consider the costs in every single one of those buckets, the volumetric cost of energy itself comes into play at some point. And these other fixed costs, they exist regardless of how much energy actually flows through our system at any one given moment. In Menard Electric, our book of tariffs that we provide to you does not unbundle those costs whatsoever. Instead, we primarily recover them through the volumetric energy charges. So let's put some numbers to these fixed costs. Most members may or may not be aware that the first tier volumetric energy charge for their residential kilowatt hours is 13.9 cents. But here's a breakdown of each one of those supply chain segment costs. And you'll notice that the actual energy consumed by the cooperative members is just 3.3 cents of that 13.9 in total. This value is our avoided cost of the purchased energy that we get from our supplier. Therefore, in order to implement a true cost of service approach to renewable energy, the energy cost component that we give to our members must be fairly compensated at this level, not the full retail value at 13.9 cents. Now, this approach is not about discouraging renewable energy. It's about creating a sustainable model where the benefits and the costs of that shared system are distributed equally amongst all the members. This course correction was implemented at the first of this year. Now, to address the use of our system as a battery, the state legislators actually considered that several years ago when the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act was passed. In the language of that act, a provision essentially indicates that no renewable energy systems installed after December of 2024 can be net metered. And to prepare for this, your cooperative adopted an additional renewable energy program, which provides for the net billing of renewable energy systems. Net billing provides really the most transparent signal to members in the form of cost causation and avoided cost value by charging members for the actual volume of energy that's consumed during the month, whether that's during the daytime or the nighttime, and it separately provides a fair valued credit for the volume of excess energy sent back to the grid. And that's usually during the daytime. This methodology eliminates any perception that our system is being utilized as a long-term battery, since the two registers, which are in that meter, they do capture and they do accumulate the energy flowing in one direction or the other direction in real time. And we understand that renewable energy billing methodologies can raise some questions, and that's why we're implementing this transition from net metering to net billing over the course of time, 7 years to be exact from the date of interconnection. And we're having clear communications throughout that period. Focused letters were sent to affected members announcing these policy and methodology changes last year. A handful of members were transitioned at the first of the year from net metering to net billing. And going forward, our member services team will continue to communicate upcoming transitions several months in advance. They'll send a reminder and another explanation of the transition being made. And we also offer one-on-one consultations with members prior to or following that transition, because each system and the load that's being offset behind that system is really unique. Matter of fact, I've spoken with 3 members in the past couple of weeks, because this is the time of year when most systems are starting to produce a lot of excess energy. The days are longer, of course, and that's causing that. If asked my takeaway after a deeper dive into the particulars of the few systems or several systems that I've looked at and the perspective of our members, it's this. For many years, our net metering program promoted renewable energy growth, it promoted production, and that's great. But the time and the technology has finally come for consumers who do wish to utilize these renewable systems to their full potential to consider adding battery storage technology. I do believe that this enhancement will be the energy solution resource for the future for consumers and for utilities alike, because as more renewables are incorporated into the grid, we really need to consider these more modern technologies. Case in point, last year, our wholesale power supplier, Prairie Power, commissioned an integrated resource plan which suggested that utility-scale battery storage technology could be considered in the future for its distribution cooperative members for their future capacity needs. In short, an IRP focuses on comprehensive long-term planning for electricity providers. And our supplier takes their planning role very, very seriously. They are routinely audited and evaluated for their compliance with a litany of electric reliability standards and requirements by the National Electric Reliability Corporation, including those standards which ensure that resource planning is performed effectively. It's interesting then that during the spring legislative session which just ended, a variety of environmental groups and advocates for clean energy made a run on the electric cooperatives and the municipal systems as well, with proposed legislation that would require several items, one of those being that we perform these studies. Of course, the state wanted, or those that were advocating for that act, wanted some manipulated inputs, and those inputs would have driven the results for that kind of a study into the state's selective guardrails. Those members who receive our Voices for Cooperative Power campaigns will recall, perhaps, communications from us seeking your participation to speak up in Springfield, and I hope others were able tonight to stop by that table and to get signed up for those messages, because that's very important that we all bring our voice and make it heard. So let's leave here tonight committed to maintaining local control of our cooperative and how we perform our planning. And let's leave here tonight making our voices heard, because as we speak together, we amplify our future. Thank you very much.